Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The Cleaning Lady. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I think the reason why I was so hesitant to watch this episode, because I knew, where episode 11 left off, I was like, oh god, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong, and this is not going to end well. And I knew, once again, everything has been building towards this, and I knew it was going to kind of have the sad ending that it had, but we'll kind of break things down. First and foremost, picking up afterwards, Tony's getting arrested, and so is Fee. Tony luckily has the Garrett trump card she can play, but Fee isn't one of the... the cop didn't even really check. He was like, all right, I'll check. But it's like, hey, Garrett knows he can't pull that off because he knows if he, she's part of this. If he lies, they're going to come back and that's going to blow back on him. So it's like, that's going to be more of an issue. So... this is the second time he's pulled Tony out of the fire, the whole situation. Once again, the whole Marco thing wasn't her fault. It was, I shouldn't have phrased it like that because it's making it sound like it's Chris's fault. It's not Chris's fault either. But the fact is that, to be fair, this has been happening for a while because just everything is on because Tony has been making a lot of unilateral decisions without really involving the other people around her. She's making these choices on her own, just kind of not really thinking too much about how much of an effect they were going to have on the people around her. Just because it's once again, her need to protect her son, her love for her son ended up kind of consuming her, and her need to protect him, her willingness to do anything, And justification to save her entire family. Now she's she's making a deal with Garrett, who's if you help me take down Camdar, we could use this as leverage to get not only, you can get Fee, Chris, your entire family, you having official green cards. That way you don't have to suffer the ramifications. This has got to all be dealt with, but they got to take down Camdar. Problem is, though, it's cool, especially after Garrett found out about all the lies about wait, what? What about, it's all right, not only did he help me get, Luca's medicine, he also brought in fentanyl, which she didn't realize. She thought it was just medicine he was bringing in. Once again, there's a good chance, I guess it's because of you had your medical connection and stuff like that, be the reason why you're able to kind of open this pipeline in the Philippines, but it's still a thing of, it's that blissful ignorance of you probably didn't really give it too much thought because it's that's what we've been dealing in is that type of medicine, not fentanyl. And it's right now that's going to be out in the street. So many people are going to die and that's going to fall on her. So now it's a situation of we got to do something about Camdar, but Tony nor Armand could get close because they've most likely been burned. It's he's got Nadia on the lock and key, which he ultimately didn't kill Nadia because I think that is ultimately his undoing because he can't, because he does love her too much. I thought it was going to be hey, I'm going to keep you alive and I'm going to kill you in front of Armand or blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I thought it'd be kind of a Sophie's Choice situation like Armand was in previously with Tony and Nadia. Well, it turns out that's not the case. He's just keeping her around because he loves her. He couldn't bring himself to kill her, but it is still a thing of yeah, you almost killed her, even though she tried to kill you, and but he's crazy enough that he's I love you, then I'm gonna let that slide, even though I do strongly believe you tried to kill me because no one else would have had that opportunity. So now the question is, because Tony needs to make this work, especially because Fee's running out of time. She ended up having to tell the kids what was what. And obviously JD's pissed at her because it's this is all on you. Fee made a choice for you. Yes, it was for Lucas' sake, but you shouldn't have and that ends up being this interesting conversation again and again where it's why should the world kind of revolve around Tony? And I think that's the complicated thing of is Tony's story unique in regard? No, she's just in a position to do something about it now because, she's unfortunately found herself in these circumstances and she's taking advantage of the circumstances she's been in. And it's you deal with the hands that you've been dealt and they've given her opportunity and position to take care of her family and make sure Luca's okay. But it is still the thing of it's not Tony's anyone special. It is someone who just, it's you kind of want the world to kind of bend your way, and the world is super unfair, but it's yeah, when the world's unfair, and let's face it, when the world fucks you, you gotta fuck the world back. It's kind of that mentality that Tony has, and it's not I'm trying to demonize her for that, because any human in that circumstance would do the same thing. You're going to do wrong and you're going to justify it because it means doing what you want to do. It means in her mind, I will do and whatever I have to if it means protecting my family, making sure my son's okay, that he's able to live the life he's lived. But the problem is that her choices compromised her family, the same family she's trying to protect. That is like, right, we're in this together. And those choices she made ends up with Fee in jail, because it's not just jail that Fee has to worry about. She's going to get deported. And if she gets deported, the way JD says the lawyers got it set up, the lawyer's saying like she could be deported, like even if they do things right, she could be deported for 10 years before she could come back to the U.S. And now it's like, how are we supposed to like deal with that? I mean, Tony's doing everything she can, making the deal with the FBI, but Fee's like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, can you really trust the FBI in this regard? You can't make promises that you don't know for sure you can keep. But for Tony, it's because she's so heartbroken because she does realize this all falls on her. Fee's only in this situation because of her. And it's like, I need to make this right, because she never once thought about how the fallout would. She was so focused on Luca that she had blinders to everything else. And because of that, everything fell apart. Now Fee's in jail. She's potentially going to get deported. Like Chris and Jazz are going to, their mom might not be able to see their mom in 10 years. She won't be there for them. And even Chris knows, like, if this happens, mom won't forgive herself. It will kill her if she's not able to be with us. And obviously for Chris, it's like, and I think it's so impactful that that's coming from Chris, because especially what we started at the beginning of the series, Chris was acting like a little tool. I mean, yes, his life got turned upside down because he found out the truth about his circumstances. It's like, oh, I wasn't born in here in the States, so I'm here illegally, just along with mom, and she's lied, but she bent over backwards, did everything she could, made money to pay for a lawyer to try and get him, like, his citizenship. But when the time came, Chris was like, hey, if you go back to the Philippines, I'm going with you. And she's like, no. He's like, I recognize all you've done for me. She's like, no, if you did, you would realize all the toilets I scrubbed, everything I did, every grind I went through, everything I did was so that you would have a better life. Even if I'm not here, you owe it to me and you owe it to yourself to live a good life. So it's like, if I get sent back, you stay here. And even, later on, JD telling her, like, hey, it's okay. I'll look after the kids. It's not just Jazz. I'll look after Chris as well. And Jazz is upset because it's like, wait, you all knew that she was working with the FBI? Like, I wasn't told. Like, I'm not a kid. I don't need you protecting me. It's like, obviously there's still more that you don't know about. It's like, right, Chris and Marco. And I think Chris, the whole point, and that's the thing JD told him, is like, you have to find a way to live with that. Like, you're not going to be able to, that guilt is always going to be there, but you're going to have to find a way to live with it. And I think his way of living with it is, hey, I got to step up. I'm going to be there for Luca. I kind of took your father away from you. Him and Luca always had a good relationship regardless, but it's like, even more so, like, I got to look after you because your dad's not here because of me, because of my actions. So, but to be fair, he was in that position because of his own actions, and that in conjunction with Tony's actions, it's just everything just clashing and the dominoes falling where they are. So it's just a sad circumstance and situation. And even at the end of the day, Fee recognizes, like, right, she's telling her kids, sometimes you do something that you know is right, you might have to do some wrong to get there. But she'd even told Tony, at the end of the day, I did what I did to help Luca, obviously, but now I got to think about my kids. So regardless of, hey, the FBI doesn't really they don't want Tony going in because, like, you could be compromised. Armand doesn't want her to go in because you could also be compromised. But Tony goes in regardless. It's like, I can get Camdar on my side. And it's like, right, I need you as much as you need me. Because, yes, I need you because of Luca's meds. You might not trust me, but trust that. Everything I've done has been for my son. You need me because the contact in Manila is mine. So the only way this pipeline is going to work is if you have me. And it did seem like Nadia was giving her heads up, being like, oh, you're going to try to go to the Caymans. And then Tony looked at her and was like, okay, that was kind of a slight, like, wink and nod to let her know, like, okay, something's up. Like, he might try and make a break for it when it comes to the whole situation. So they go to pick up the drugs that he had stashed and once he had stolen back from Armand and his people. I hope Armand catches up with that guy that sold him out. Like, please tell me he does. It's like, oh, that guy is going to be so in for it when Armand catches up with him, because it's like, you screwed the pooch on that so bad. You screwed me over. It's like, oh, you're done, homie. We'll see. But But the problem is that Robert isn't stupid. He knows that something's up. He's like, you know what happened to me. He's like, the fact is you told Joseph not to use the defibrillator because you already knew what was going on with me. So he's like, you might not have been the one responsible for poisoning me, but you are the one who saved me, and you knew exactly what to do to save me. So that didn't distill any closure in his mind. It's like, no, I know you're up to something. So, and he's like, Tony's lying to him. I mean, because he's surrounded by so many people that he's definitely not in a good mood after everything with Nadia trying to kill him. So he's like, you're in on this. I know you are. It's like, once again, she had nothing to do with Armand stealing your stuff. I mean, she even admits, like, yeah, that was Armand who did it, but I needed that medication for my son. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, cool, I can't trust you. He doesn't even know that she is working with the cops, in fact, but it's just because you're lying to me over and over again, and I can't trust you anymore. So, luckily, Garrett and Armand showed up, which I even love. Garrett gave him a bulletproof vest. It was like, yo, all right, let's at least pretend like we're working together. And they had each other's back when it came to Tony. It's like these two pillars in Tony's life are here to help her, for her sake, too. But it's also about taking down Camdar, because obviously Armand wants him gone. Garrett wants him gone. Everyone there has their motivations for why they need him gone. All, once again, tied by more so what they need, rather than, and obviously what they need kind of coming in contrast while also being similar to what each other wants. It's like, right, Armand wants him dead, but Garrett needs him alive because Garrett wants him to go to prison and suffer what he did because of Maya. Tony needs him alive because it's like, I need him to go to jail because it's the only way I can strike my deal and get Fee out. So they are in conjunction, similar goals. They are all after Camdar, but they all have different approaches and want very different results. And I was scared. I was like, oh God, Garrett's going to get hit at some point in time. But then I was like, oh, maybe he didn't. Oh, it's fine. Because I was like, okay, if he had hit, they'd show it. And then he starts bleeding out. I was like, no way. I was like, wait, there's no way they're killing Garrett. It's like, there's no way they're doing it. And he's like, you did it, Tony. She's like, no, we did. I was like, come on. I was like, maybe you could get some supplies. You are a doctor. I was like, maybe she could do something. And the moment Catherine rolled up, and she was obviously like everything between her and Garrett, which is heartbreaking considering they just made date plans. And after all, it's that situation of like, right, so long there's kind of been this kind of thing between us, and we finally took a shot on it, and now it's happening, and that sadly happens too often, and it sucks. Because it's like, right, let's not forget, Garrett, yeah, he has an ex, but he also has a son. So, that's heartbreaking. That's like, yeah, that is like, yeah, once again, because of Tony's action, Garrett was only there to help you out because you rushed into the situation almost getting yourself killed, which Catherine's not too happy. I mean, she has every reason to not like Tony right now. It's like, yeah, Garrett bent over backwards for your sake and was doing everything he could to help you with Fiona, but it's like, right, Garrett wouldn't hold the issues with you against Fiona, so we'll talk to like the AG or whatever and try and get this like pushed through and try to get like, it's like, okay, but before they could, Camdar made bail. It's like, cool, if he runs and gets away and we don't arrest him, your deal is done. Because Catherine was pretty much like, I should arrest you for everything that you've been a part of, and because of you, Garrett is dead, Because Tony doesn't know about Catherine, from her perspective, it's just like, oh, Catherine lost a good agent. Because she recognized, like, yes, Garrett could be a douchebag. He could do some shitty things, but in the end, he was rough around the edges, very, very rough around the edges. But at the end of the day, he was a good guy. He tried to do the right thing. I mean, especially you got to give him props about the whole Chris thing, the way he handled that, and time again, what he has done, like he has come through for Tony. Once again, he has kind of screwed Tony over. Once again, you can't forget about the whole almost getting Fee deported situation. So it's like, yeah. So you can't really. Now we're kind of on the inverse of that Tony's the reason why Fee's about to get deported, and so Garrett was going to be her lifeline. So it's like an inverse of season 1, but whereas Garrett was able to come through last time, the situation didn't call. It's like, right, you kind of got away with this one time, you weren't going to be lucky the second time through. So Fee sadly does get deported, and obviously the moment like Chris obviously handles it the worst, because for him, he's like, I believed you when you said, because he wanted to give Tony the benefit. That's like, no, Tony's going to get this done. But then it's like, no, this is all on you. Wait, oh, Garrett's dead? Especially because, like, Garrett's the one that cut him some slack, told him it was okay. It's like, yo, that guy was a good, like, is this another person you screwed over? And Jazz is the one that's like, Chris, no. And JD's like, right, we don't need to be arguing. We're a family. Only way we're going to do it is stick this together. And obviously, Chris could stay with Jazz and obviously JD, but Chris is like, no, I need to be there for Luca. And now that cuts Tony even deeper, especially when Luca's asking for fee. And it's just like, I have to make this right. I jumped over it, but obviously the deal fell through because Armand rolled up and popped Camdar. Well, actually didn't. It was actually Nadia who did it, because he wanted her to have that be the one to do it. And now it's like, oh, La Habana is it's ours and everything. And she's like, no, it's mine, because it's like, right, she is still legally married. That was the whole point. Like, when Camdar died, like, everything of Robert's would fall to her, which was kind of something I was wondering would happen in the long run. I felt like, hey, Armand and all of them would end up taking down Robert, and then you have Nadia kind of taking over everything. And I think this situation might have unlocked something in her, because that whole, like, no, it's mine, because he made that whole point of, like, yeah, you don't have anyone else as boss being your boss, whether it's Hayek, whether it's Robert, and he's like, yeah, this is ours. She was quick to be like, no, it's mine, because it's in her name legally, not his. So that's a whole complication. And even by the end, he's kind of like, yeah, we got to keep some stuff from Nadia. Because I took that as like, okay, everyone has to choose their side. The lines have been drawn. Obviously, that at the end of the day, Armand ended up choosing Nadia. John chose his family over everything with Tony, because Tony kind of did the same thing, but it's like, right, 10 out of 10 times she'll always pick Luca above anyone else. But, and now, like, once again, that deal is down the drain. And after everything was Chris, JD, and Jazz, she's like, no, I'm going to find a way to fix this. I have to fix this. And she's blaming Armand, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of on both of them. It's because she needs someone. I mean, yes, he screwed the pooch by killing Robert. It's like, if you had just made it so that the deal happened, like, once it was ironclad, I mean, there was no getting, it'd be pretty hard to probably, like, I mean, I'm thinking you probably could get Robert killed in prison, but yeah, he needed that happening now. Which you can also understand Armand's perspective. Robert's Robert. He has to pull in connections that if we, like, even if he, like, went to jail, he'd still kill all of us. Like, Fee is actually safe now because of that. So we're all safe now. We're all better off. Yes, Fee's situation sucks, but she's better off with him dead than him alive, because he's too much of a flight risk to leave alive, because we're all on his shit list right now. I mean, once again, still was going to drag Nadia with him to the Cayman Islands, despite everything. It's like, you're that in love, and it's like, what, you think everything was going to be sunshine and rainbows after the fact? It's like, she dislikes you. You already know that she doesn't love you. But did he think like, no, I'll make you love me? Which I'm like, that's very fucked up if you were going to go down that route. You'd have no choice but to go down that route, because it's like, oh, it'd be a very hostage situation to be kind of like, oh, you'd want her to kind of fall in love with you in a very Stockholm syndrome type of way, like, well, all we have is each other. So I don't know what Robert's plan was. He was on the back foot. He kind of got screwed over by the sudden appearance of the FBI. He was trying to bail with the one, like, he could have left her behind, but he wanted to take her. So, but now Armand's willing to help Tony, because she's like, I've never stopped trusting you, but we need to fix this. And he's like, right, we can't let Nadia know, because Nadia's not going to be too happy about us cooperating regardless of the circumstances. So, because it's like, right, you also kind of screwed the pooch by saving Camdar in the first place. So I was wondering, I was like, okay, so how's this all going to play out? So Tony and Armand are going to continue the pipeline from Manila to the U.S. They're picking up with his contacts that they kind of went through when when they were taking a flight back, coming back to the U.S., and they were able to kind of get waved through. They're using that same contact and person they're paying off. It's like, right, you'll still get your payments even with Camdar gone, but yeah, we're going to keep the drugs going, and we're also bringing someone back. So part of me wonders, is Is that just going to be a side thing that Armand's doing? Or is that going to be something him and Nadia are doing, but we're also going to uh, secretly bring sneak feedback into the country, which that's going to be a whole issue in itself because God forbid if she gets found sneaking back into the country, that's not going to be good. And obviously you're kind of burned with the FBI, so because Catherine and them aren't going to like. I wonder, like, legitimately going forward, would the show cut away from, like, would we never get any more stuff with the FBI? Because Garrett was always our connection. Yes, we got introduced to Jefferson this season, so would he kind of fill that void a little bit? Him and Catherine, like, would we get any more with them, or no? I'd be so fascinated to see, or would we just purely stay on, like, the criminal and family side of things? The criminal side with, like, Armand and Tony, because I could definitely see, like, I don't know if she'll go full blown, like, no, we're going Breaking Bad or Ozark here. Like, she's going full, like, Wendy Bird, trying to make the best of a situation. I think you could draw many parallels between Tony and Wendy. But I'm curious, like, would she go down that route? And I was wondering, would they make her kind of embrace the more criminal side of things? I don't know. Would she kind of become a boss in her own right? Like, or would she actually be able to finally, like, sever her away from all this? Because the problem is, every season she just digs herself deeper and deeper into this criminal side of things. And even if she's able to get feedback, the problem with that, though, is like, where do you go from there? You know, things will never be the same with the family. You're never going to have, like, your family back together. Fee is probably going to want to cut ties with you. She loves Luca, but she wants probably nothing to do with you after everything, because it's like, it's cost her so much. Everything, it's like, regardless of the circumstances, once again, it was on Marco, but it's still like, yeah, her brother's going kind of because of you, but kind of not. Mainly his own things. That's why I'm like, I'm not trying to blame Tony, because sadly, Tony's already blaming herself. But it's like, yeah, I'm in this situation. I'm almost getting deported twice because of you. First time I almost got deported. Our friend did get deported. Now I was getting deported, and I did get deported. So I will never be safe around my children if you're here. So, and JD wouldn't have it anyway. He'd want nothing to do. I mean, even if Chris wants to be there for Luca under these circumstances, I doubt it's going to be an immediate thing of getting Fee out of the Philippines and back. Could that be interesting? Because you could only assume she'd be back with her parents, so that would be interesting. Maybe her parents were kind of getting away of her trying to sneak back into the U.S. There's just so much at play there, and I'm so curious to see where things would kind of go, especially Nadia finding out about this. She'd probably end up kicking Armand to the curb because it's like, no, it's all mine. This is mine. I don't need you anymore. I loved you. I love that you did what you did for me, but I could also see killing Peter. Doing it again. Couldn't be the season finale without me, for whatever reason, calling him Peter. Once again, I don't know what the hell that's about. Robert, unlocks something in her. It unlocks something in her, and I think she's kind of Breaking Bad right now. So it'd be interesting to see where things kind of go on that front. Will we see her kind of go more to criminal route? Like I said, is she completely exiting from all of that? Is Armand kind of back in that? Are they still going to use that to kind of fund what they're doing? I mean, obviously they're using this to get to Fee, but like, what happens to like Camdar's like drug operations? Because someone's going to step in and try and fill that void to some extent. This could still tie back into the FBI being like, oh, we're still, because they're still in the process of trying to dismantle Robert's network, because that was the whole point. If you take him down, you take down a lot of the syndicates he's working with and what he's a part of. They're still active without Camdar being there. So there's, like I said, it opens up a criminal power vacuum that I can see anyone trying to jump in there trying to fill. So there's just so many different directions this could all potentially go. I am getting to this late. It is December 15th when I am recording this, so it's still not clear whether or not Fox is bringing this back for a third season. Fingers crossed. I think there was some time in between season 1 and 2, but there's also that problem. The biggest problem with any network TV show, or just any show in general, how many people are watching it? If the viewership isn't high enough, that's the main reason why anything ever gets canceled. No one's watching it, you know? So, and obviously the audience, very rarely will you have a situation where the audience gets bigger and bigger with every season. especially with network television, I feel like it's typically on it. Like, nope, it gets smaller and smaller. Yes, there are exceptions, but it is just a situation like I don't know what the ratings are like for the show. I really could I can care less. I should really say I could care less. Because I like the shows I like and I just want them to continue because I'm selfish. I don't care if anyone else is watching them, but networks care about that because it matters, you know? So at the very least, I don't know whether this would be like we'd go into a final season because we're also entering unknown territory because we have been with this entire season. I don't know how this compares to the original Argentinian series, but because that series was only one season. There was like a Mexican adaptation in Mexico for this. I think that's only one season. I don't know. So that might be like a more closer adaptation than this is because does that, but it's also kind of doing its own thing with like having a season 2. So this show could go as long as they want it to. I'd want the show to at the very least be able to end on its own terms. Now, whether that means like this next season, if it gets a third season, will be the final season. I'm fine with that if it means any, because that's always this fear of like any show. You're just like, I don't want to be so invested in a show just for it to end. So I feel like this show could go 5 seasons if they wanted to. Once again, that's the bar, like for me at the bare minimum. But if they're like, right, Fox gives us one more season, I'm happy that you'll be able to end it on your own terms. Go into it being like, we know this is the final season, so let's wrap up a lot of these storylines. Because there's enough there where you could be like, I could see a new season being the end. Not saying they have to end it after 3 seasons, but I could just see a season 3 finishing this story to some extent, but we don't know what, it all just comes down to what the creators and the writers decide upon for the story of season 3, whether that leaves enough open or whether it kind of closes a lot of these chapters, where everything stands at the end of all of it. I mean, I get the feeling like where we still currently stand, I could still see an Armand and Tony thing happening, how that could come in contrast with obviously his marriage to Nadia, but also like Tony's relationship with her family, especially with JD in the picture and Jab. I mean, irregardless of it all, like the fact is that Tony kind of is not in a good place, even with Chris, and Jazz not as much, but probably like Chris, it's probably like even more so not in a good place. So there's that. So hopefully we do get a season 3 because I'd love to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.